a little
Yes, ma'am.
video clip also?
Yes, ma'am.
How
Yes,
many of
ma'am.
you read the first story first and then saw the video? And how many of you saw the video, then read the story?
I had read the story already, and when you sent the video link, I watched the video then.
Okay. So anybody here who saw the video first and then read the story? Don't feel free to speak. Uh, just put your mics on and speak. Is anybody who just saw the video, didn't read the story? Tasneem, what did you do? Tasneem? Harshita, what did you do?
Ma'am, I read the story
Okay.
first, then I saw the video.
Okay. We'll come back to this question of how how effectively does a representation like a short film uh, or something like a small documentary on the story, how effectively does it actually capture the original story? Because many times you have stories and you have books that are made into films, and everybody sees the film and assumes that's almost like just the same thing as what happens in the story. But sometimes the story actually gives a slightly different effect or slightly different perspective than what the video does. So maybe we could speak about that after we've gone through the story. I've sent a couple of questions to you. Did you have a chance to look at it? Okay. So let's start off by meaning anybody can feel free to reply. Why do you think I suggested it's Christmas after all? It's the Christmassy season. Of course, Christmas passed, but we're still in the festive mood. Why do you think I suggested this story at this time of the year?
Ma'am, it is the season of gifting.
It's a season of gifting. Okay.
Gifting.
Any other reason why I said, okay, let's read the gift of the Magi?
I think after this last few months, it was that rather than think of ourselves, think of someone else.
Okay.
Give importance to
Mhm.
someone else.
Okay. So we kind of moved the focus from our own selves to others.
Others.
Yeah. Anybody else? Why this story of all the possible stories? I think I'm just going to call out names so we get more impressions. Neha Rane. Neha, did you like the story? Cannot hear people. What about Simin?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you like the story?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you think of why the book club decided to read this story now?
Ma'am, I think ma'am, I think during the Christmas period, because this is Christmas. So in Christmas we gift each other. So I think because of that
Okay.
gifting.
Why has anybody asked the question, why do we gift each other at Christmas time? Of course, we gift each other throughout the year. I'm sure you give gifts for birthday and for Valentine's Day and other occasions. So, what's so special about a gift at Christmas time?
Ma'am, I think people believe that throughout the years, what is happening, things which are good, bad, whatever it is, especially the kids do believe that Santa
Okay.
comes and gives you some
Okay.
special gifts, and you
Okay.
can make a wish, and Santa is going to uh, fulfill that wish. So maybe because of that, people think that on this auspicious occasion, we can gift each other and we can make some good memories, I think.
Um,
Uh,
you, yes?
if means what we have learned because of our both my sons being in convent schools. Okay, gifting basically had started when the first gifts were given during Christmas by the three wise men when they came to see Christ.
Exactly. Exactly. And that is the Magi. Did you look that up, girls? Who are
Yes,
the
ma'am.
Magi?
Yes, ma'am. The three wise kings
Yeah.
who
The
brought
three
gifts for
wise.
Jesus Christ
Yeah.
when he was
Yeah.
born.
And do you know what they brought Jesus Christ? What are the three gifts?
Then they brought frankincense,
Yeah.
gold, and myrrh. Myrrh.
Yeah.
Myrrh and myrrh.
Okay. So they bought these gifts for Jesus Christ. Okay. So the whole idea of coming to see baby Jesus and coming with the gifts. So that comes back to the whole story of why is the story itself called the gift of the Magi? Okay? Is it about gifting? What kind of gifts? What is the significance of gifts? What is the importance of gifts? Um, the whole idea of giving. Gifting comes from the idea of giving. And when do you gift something? What's the difference?
When you want to show some appreciation
Mhm.
about the other person, when you
Okay.
recognize some qualities of that person that you really
Okay.
like, or maybe you want to give
Okay.
them something because you adore something about them.
So, is there a difference between gifting and giving?
Yes, I think gifting comes with an occasion.
Okay. So, what is the if you say gifting is a central theme of this story? Okay, how does a story become a story about gifting? Let's come to a very simple question, and maybe we'll get some more girls to talk about this. Okay, what makes a story a special story? Why is it known as a classic? A classic is a story that survives over time. Okay, the story is more than 100 years old, but still today people read it and they talk about this particular story. You can just put it into the chat box. What makes you think that this story is an extraordinary story? And if you're doing literature and you have to study about uh, the whole art of short stories, normally you have to study O. Henry's stories. So just put it in the chat box. What makes you think that this story is an extraordinary story?
Ma'am, may I please request you to arrange the camera in a certain way because we're not able to view you.
Okay, can you see me now?
Yeah, this is much better now. Thank
Okay,
you.
yeah, so sorry about that. Okay. Uh,
Mala ma'am, I can't see you.
can you see me now?
No ma'am.
I
Everyone can see ma'am.
yeah, I can see, ma'am. Probably because of the network issue. Sometimes it fluctuates.
Yeah, but
Okay.
everybody can see me, but I would love to see you also.
Can you see me now?
I can see a couple of girls. I can't see the others. I think
I can't see anyone.
they're worried they're in class, and if they put their cameras on, we will make them answer. Come on, girls, let's see you. We're a small group.
I can see only Huda.
I can see a few more girls now.
Misbah, you just woke
Misbah
up.
just woke up.
It's okay. You woke up, that's
Yeah.
important.
Uh,
But I think it happens, ma'am. Sometimes the visual
yeah.
emerges and then
Yeah.
disappears because of network.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Connectivity goes.
Yeah. Okay. So
Kalpana, ma'am, my
let's
camera
talk
is
about
gone.
First of all, do you agree with me that this is an extraordinary story? It's a story that stands out. It's a story that will remain in your memory.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody disagrees? Anybody feels what's so great about this story? Okay. So you've been putting it into the chat box. Um, Mispa says, I like the way the author describes the character. And Gauri, the tragedy makes it memorable. What's a tragedy? How many of you agree? Okay, if you agree, just put agree in the chat box. How many of you agree that it's a tragic story? Simple question. Put it in the chat box. How many of you feel it's a sad story? The others? Do you feel it's a sad story? You feel it's a happy story? Ashita says sad. A hard time which they're going and still manage to gift each other. The story, okay? What emotion does the story evoke? Does it make you feel happy or does it make you feel good at the end of the story?
No, ma'am. I think they were impractical about their future.
Can you explain that a little more?
Ma'am, they were going through financial crisis
Okay.
themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and he knew they were to suffer more 3 years, and
Mm-hmm.
they were wasting their money on giving gifts to each other where they could have prepared a little nice dinner and had it together. That was even a good thing, and they
Mm-hmm.
wasted their money, so much money, on getting each one's gift. I felt it was a waste of time and money.
Harshita, what money did they waste? They didn't have money in the first place to start off with.
Ma'am, he sold his watch and she sold her hair, which was very pretty.
Okay.
They could have stored things and used it for their further coming crisis, and
So,
may
okay,
have
so you're,
utilized the
you're
money.
saying that she could have sold a hair and used the money for something else, and he could have sold the watch and used the money for something else.
Yeah, like a
Okay.
comb can't be used.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. Does anybody
I
disagree
feel,
with her?
uh, I what I feel is that like what she did,
Mhm.
what she did was she cut her hair and he brought a comb for her. But her hair would grow, but the watch won't come back. So she sold her hair to get a chain for the watch. But he did not have the watch at the first place, but she could grow her hair and use the comb in the future. So that part I felt was a little funny. Otherwise, I felt that it was uh, it was I don't know the word for it, but it was more like tragic.
Yeah. The other
I
you,
think
Gauri, Mispa, yes.
I think they realized because of what they did, they realized that how much they each other love equally because they both know that how they each each one of them loves that thing, that
Okay.
each one of them love that thing so much. So
Mm.
one thing is that we can say that we love so much, and but an action just concretes it so that you just believe it more. I think.
But Misbah, according to Harshita, it was a waste of their resources. They were not practical.
Ma'am, gifts are never. I think we should never say that gifts are a waste of money because it creates memory, and those memories are everlasting. I feel.
Okay. Do you agree, Samin, do you agree with Gauri that one gift was more valuable than the other?
Yes, ma'am. But gift, I don't think so that we should consider that this gift is valuable and that is not. In this case, yes, I can say. But when it comes to reality, I think each and every gift is valuable and
Okay.
special. I feel.
Uh, what about the others? Gauri says that her hair would have grown again, but Jim's watch is gone. Okay. How many of you think that Jim's gift in some way is more valuable than Della giving up her hair? I really would like to hear others. Pooja?
Ma'am, for a woman, her
Yes.
hair is the most important thing. So for a lot of women, cutting their hair or even a single hair means, I think,
Okay.
was not that her hair was not valuable. Yeah, her hair will definitely keep growing future. But
Okay.
for her or for any woman, hair is important. I
Okay. So you feel that she made the bigger sacrifice?
When
I
it comes to ma'am, valuable, uh, what is valuable in terms of money? In that, I think what is valuable. When it comes to feeling.
okay.
So for somebody, we cannot say that watch is much more valuable or hair is much more
Okay.
valuable because it depends from people.
Okay. So we have different ways of looking at who gave up what, whether it was really worth it for them to give up their most prized possessions. Because in the end, ultimately, both of them give up their prized possessions. But as Gauri points out, that Della would have got her hair back, but Jim's watch is gone. You look up the references to Queen Sheba and King Solomon. Uh,
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, these are again biblical references. If you have not, you can just Google it later on. So, what does O. Henry do? He takes a lot of these references from the Bible, and then he incorporates it in the story, which is the gift of Maggie. So, again, we're talking about gifting. And if you look up Queen Sheba and King Solomon, did anybody look up that story? Do you want to share something about Queen Sheba and King Solomon? Okay. Do a fast Google. I'm sure that you have your phones with you. Yeah. Just Google Queen Sheba and King Solomon. Anything, Shika?
Yeah, I was just looking up.
Okay.
Ma'am, King Solomon is known as the most wisest king in the
Yeah.
Bible,
Mm-hmm.
and he's the one who built the first temple in Jerusalem.
Okay.
He's a wealthy and wise king of the United
Okay.
Kingdom of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And
Then
here,
Queen Sheba is the first figure mentioned in the Hebrew Bible, and she brings a caravan of valuable gifts for the
okay.
Israelite king Solomon.
So you having this is known as an allusion, a biblical allusion. It refers to something from the Bible again, where you have this process of gifting, And just as the three wise men bring gifts for baby Jesus, you have the whole idea of material gifts. Okay? So gifts, do gifts necessarily have to be a material gift? Okay. What's a more
No, ma'am.
gift? Right? Do you really have to have a material gift to show how much you care? No, but then
No, ma'am.
how do you show
Ma'am, I
people that
think
you
in the story, what
yeah?
is actually shown is even after they gave material gifts, the gift actually did not mean how much they love them, but
Mhm.
losing the thing which they loved the most showed how much they love.
Okay, that's a nice thought, Gauri. Can you repeat it? That's very well put. Can you please repeat what you said?
Ma'am, I said that it was not the gift that they received showed how much they loved each other, but
Okay.
the things that they lost, which they loved the most,
Okay.
showed
Mm-hmm.
how much they loved each
So
other.
it's this. Okay. What Neha? Do you want to explain? What do you
Yeah,
mean by
sacrifice.
sacrifice? Neha's left the meeting. Anybody else? Neha's put the word sacrifice. So they've sacrificed what for each other?
Ma'am,
What they loved or what was their worth? What
ma'am,
was
I think they
worth
have
for them?
sacrificed the most like valuable assets. Like for her, her hair was so beautiful and long, and still she sacrificed it though she was
Okay.
sad. And for him, the watch was given it from generations to generations, and he sacrificed it to give
Oh,
something to her. So they both were very selfless. They didn't think about
okay.
themselves, but
Mm-hmm.
for their loved one. So
Okay.
I feel that's the sacrifice.
Okay. So let's come back to the question I asked you initially. What makes this story a classic short story? Apart from the story, what else? What makes a story a good story?
A story that we will always remember,
Mm-hmm.
a story that stands test of time.
Also, for a short story, a story that's able to do what a novel would do using number of pages. Within a very short span of time, you have a plot, and a plot needs to have a beginning, a climax, and then a descent. And a plot needs to be able to build up characters in such a way that the characters become memorable. And it's like a compressed thing, it's like you're taking an entire novel and trying to compress it. And this is very difficult to do. Actually, it's much more difficult to write an effective short story than it is to have 200, 300, 400 pages to develop a story like you would do in the novel. And that's why O. Henry is one of the masters of the short stories. If you look at his short stories, the amount of emotion, the amount of allusions, the amount of kind of nuances that he's able to bring in just this is around 2,100 words. Okay? And that's what makes this, as I said, it's known as a classic short story. Um, Huda ma'am, you are teaching, I guess you've started teaching the short stories to the FYs. So is there anything that struck out when you read the story?
Ma'am, I haven't started the short stories yet. We're still doing
Okay,
some writing
okay.
skills and grammar. We
Yeah,
haven't started.
okay. Okay. Let's just look. I will just see whether I can share a copy of the story. Can you see it? Girls, can you see?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
okay, okay. And
Yes.
I would really, really love. It's really nice to have some of the girls who are responding, but I really love to hear the others also. Because the whole idea of a book club is that everybody says what they feel like. There's nothing right, there's nothing wrong. We're just discussing how much we are enjoying a piece of writing today. Okay, let me see. You girls, can you see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, we can see it.
You can see it, but I can't seem to see it. Can you see what I've marked out in yellow?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, we can.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Why? I'd like to hear many more voices now. $1.87. Short sentence, and the story starts with that. Okay, $1.87. And this sentence conveys so much. What does it convey? $1.87. That was all.
Ma'am, I
The
think it
only
conveys how much like penny to penny has been counted
Okay.
to fetch some money.
So does it suggest a lot of money or less money?
less
Less.
money.
Yeah. So what impression does it give? See how O. Henry uses sentences. Just by giving simple sentences, he makes you start thinking about the background to the characters, what their life must be like. Okay? Immediately, what does it tell you? $1.87. That was all. Just say whatever comes to your mind.
They are
That it
not
is
so
very
wealthy.
less.
Pardon?
That the money is
And
very less.
Yeah, that the money is less, maybe.
maybe she had seen more money than this before, but now it
Okay.
was all that she saw.
Okay, so you are starting itself with this suggestion that um, if you say that's all that I have, what emotion does that show? 100 rupees,
Helplessness.
all.
Ma'am, it shows the kind of insufficiency.
Yeah, it shows a sense of insufficiency. It shows that there is something that is causing some sort of pain. That's
Yes, ma'am.
have. Okay. If you see the next, also it says penny saved one and two at a time. So saving this money has not been easy. Saving this money has been something that has been quite difficult for this lady. Who's telling us the story?
Oh, Henry.
Oh,
So, third person narrative.
Yeah, it's a third person narrative. So it's and what does a third person narrative mean?
It is the writer who is telling us the story. Oh,
Yeah,
Henry is
but what
telling us
does
the
that
story.
mean? From a story's perspective, what does it mean, third person narrative? It means the story is being told by a third observer, someone from the outside.
Hmm.
Somebody who's
Outside.
watching these two people and then just telling us the story. I'd also told you to look up silent imputation of parsimony. Yeah. So these are phrases that maybe may make the story seem a little difficult to you, but if you just look these things up, you will understand that the story is not that difficult at all. It's written more than 100 years ago, so naturally the language will be a little old-fashioned, but that shouldn't stop you from enjoying the story. So I'm not going to tell you the meaning of all these words, and I always tell students, you have your brain in your hand, just Google it. And if you Google it, you'll find something interesting that the search that you do will draw up this line from O. Henry, and it will say that it comes in the gift of the Magi, which shows you that this is a sentence that is quite unique. Okay? And what does she do when she realizes she flops down on the shabby little couch and howls? So that tells you a little about her, what kind of woman she is. To flop down and howl?
Perfectionist. She wants to buy like a very good quality gift.
Yeah, but how many of us would actually howl when we realize we don't have enough money? It tells you something about her character, her personality.
Maybe she.
How many of you would howl if you realize you didn't have enough money? I wouldn't.
Me too won't.
Ma'am, somebody who has been given money before, like uh um somebody who has gotten money earlier, and
Okay.
it's like it's a normal thing for them to have money.
No, but what kind of person will howl the moment that they are disappointed or they don't have what they want? Does it tell you something about that woman's personality?
She's not content, I feel, with the money she's
Not
having. Like,
content, or maybe she expresses herself in such a way that she's emotional,
Very dramatic.
very dramatic also. Okay?
Innocent
Maybe
childlike.
the maybe the
Innocent
boy like,
childlike, exactly.
yeah.
And if you read the story, you will find that there's more description of Della and very less of Jim. Jim,
Yes, ma'am.
we don't really get to know. He looks like a more kind of sober, introvert, quieter sort of person. He's someone who howls and shows her emotions, and maybe a little extrovert. So that tells you again something about the marriage between these two people. What about the next line? Did you find this line interesting? Which instigates the moral reflection that life is made up of sobs, sniffles, and smiles. Life is made up of sobs, sniffles, and smiles.
Ups and downs of life.
Ups and downs in lives. But for Della, it is sniffles predominating. Okay. Do you know what a sniffle is?
She's
Like when
always
we make
upset
those
with
small cries like these.
Yeah, that's to sniffle. Okay. So life is made out of snobs, sniffles, and smiles. But for this particular woman, most of the time, sniffles. Okay. Do you, yes, no, girls.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
You like her.
Ma'am, I
Sorry,
feel
ma'am,
like,
the voice was breaking.
sometimes, when we tell ourselves, right, that you don't need money to be happy,
Yeah.
right? You need the right kind of
Yeah.
connection with people, like with your family and friends, and then you will have a good time, right? But then there are instances where you feel that you could have done something for them, but you don't have the means to do it.
Yeah.
So I think, the howling is also a kind of desperation that,
Okay.
she has these intentions, but she
Yeah.
cannot do it.
Yeah. But my question, Huda, is that would everybody howl, or the howling tells you something about the particular personality?
she's
It
very
does say
expressive with
something.
her emotions.
Yeah. It tells you, I think, about the person. Okay. So you see what O. Henry does? He doesn't do it in a straightforward way. He doesn't say there was a woman, she was called Della, she tended to show her emotions, she was very expressive with her emotions. He just puts one line there. Okay? He uses the word howl and he says with sniffles predominating. Okay? What's a description of their home? Is there any sentence that you'd like to pick out about the description of their home? How is the home described?
A furnished flat at $8 per week.
Yeah, so what impression do you have of the flat?
Not a very well um, kept flat because of
Yeah.
the shabby little couch that is there.
Yeah.
Or here also the money, or the no money shows
Yeah.
for the upkeep of that flat, and the cost also just $8 a week.
So they are definitely facing a lot of financial difficulties. And so, why does it become so important to gift something at Christmas time?
Ma'am, maybe as someone said, probably that one moment of happiness amidst all the sorrows that they had,
Okay.
would probably lighten up each other's faces.
Uh, so
Yeah,
she,
and maybe because it comes only once a year, so they will have to wait for one whole year then.
Maybe to end the year with some happy moments, to show their love and affection. And after all, what has happened throughout the year, this is the time to, end it with a smile like that.
yeah. And how does she suddenly just later on go through the story and just pick out the colors? Okay, you have a dull. You have she looks dully at the gray cat walking a gray fence. She puts on her brown coat. Have you noticed these things when you read the story? If you go through some of the lines, as I just said, gray cat walking by a gray fence, and then she goes out. She wears a brown coat. Um, where is that? Okay. So it's again the way that O. Henry is building up the general atmosphere. I'm just trying to get that part of the brown. Okay. Yeah, can you see that? On went her old brown jacket, on went her old brown hat. Okay. Okay. And that's contradicted with the brilliant sparkle in her eyes. Okay. So the
Yes, ma'am.
environment and what she feels from within, you immediately see how the writer is about to bring that contradiction. And just before that, we are told that there are two possessions, and one is the gold watch, and the second is her hair. Does her hair remind you of any other character?
Rapunzel.
Rapunzel.
Yeah, and what about Rapunzel?
She also had golden hair.
Yeah, and then what did she do with
And
the
she
hair? How did she?
also
Cut.
lay it out on
She
the
cuts
window
it
that
in the
time.
end.
Yeah, but
She
what
doesn't
is
cut.
she doesn't cut the hair.
They the
Rapunzel doesn't
the
cut the hair.
She
yeah, the
used it to
witch
get
cuts
out
her
of
hair.
the home, to get out of the room.
Yeah. What does Rapunzel use her hair? Do you remember the fairy tale?
To get the prince up.
Rapunzel,
No?
yeah, let down your
The
long.
hair down and the prince
Yeah,
climbs up.
yeah. The prince climbs it. So what you're having here is you're having this kind of allusions. It makes you think about
Climbs up.
things that you've heard, or things that you've read earlier. So you have a fairy tale, okay, of Rapunzel letting down her long hair and the prince climbing up. And something quite different from here. So, what does Della do for her prince? Does she let down the long hair?
Yeah.
She lets down the long hair. What does she do with the long hair?
She
She chops it off.
she cuts off, it's the same, no? She cuts it off or she lets it go.
Ma'am, I kind of thought of Joe from Little Women
Okay,
Ah.
because she does the same thing. It's an act of sacrifice.
okay, okay. So these are all acts of sacrifice. Okay, and she does it because she wants to buy for the watch. Okay? And if you can see on the screen, how does she describe the watch? She says quietness and value. The description applied to both. Can you see that on the screen?
Yes.
The watch was like Jim, quietness and value. And see the next line. With that chain on his watch, Jim might be properly anxious about the time in any company. What does this mean? Grand as the watch was, he sometimes looked at it on the sly on account of the old leather strap that he used in place of the chain. This is one of the old watches before you got wristwatches. Before they came in, you would have the watch attached to many times a gold chain. But in this case, what is the watch attached to?
A leather strap.
Gold leather strap.
Strap.
And what about the leather strap? Why does Jim look at it on the slide?
Because it is old.
It's old, and so he's very embarrassed. And she has noticed this, that he's very embarrassed about the leather strap. So she feels that this is something that he really wants. And
Ma'am, when he says that he gets anxious about the time in any company, that means even if there are people of higher authority, he won't be shy when he takes out the
yeah,
gold watch.
exactly, exactly. So these are small things that she has noticed about him. And let's look at this sentence. When Jim, we are told, is only 22. What does this bring to your mind, that only 22?
That he's
His
working
age.
so hard already.
Working, yeah, how young the couple is. Just 22. And he looks thin and very serious. Who is telling us this? Who is this? Della's description? Whose description is this?
Oh, Henry. Hmm?
It's a narrator, okay? Poor fellow, burdened with a family. He needed a new overcoat and he was without gloves. Why do you think the narrator is giving us this observation? He needed a new overcoat and was without gloves.
Maybe
Maybe
that was
because
the gift
Della
he
wasn't
actually
aware of
needed.
it.
Yeah, if you remember, I think it was Harshita who said that they were wasting money.
Money.
Yeah.
Yeah. They could
So,
have got.
yeah, so
Probably gotten gloves or overcoat, but she chose to get a chain instead.
yeah, so maybe they could have used the money for these things.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. But
Yes, ma'am.
Harshita, would it have been romantic?
No, ma'am, but it would be a use.
It would be
But
useful.
at 22, you're young and you want to show your love. Okay. Uh, he opens, and there's an expression in his eyes when he sees her. There was an expression in them that she could not read, and it terrified her. It was not anger, nor surprise, nor disapproval, nor horror, nor any of the sentiments that she had been prepared for. He simply stared at her fixedly with that peculiar expression on his face. So she opens the door and he's looking. What is he looking at?
At Della.
Yeah, but
At
what
her
kind of
face.
expression? It's not anger,
Shock.
surprise.
Shock.
It's not
More perplexed. Perplexed, I think.
perplexed. It's not disapproval. It's not horror. So what is it? How is he looking at her?
He can't believe what he has just seen, perhaps.
Yeah, but anything else?
He's just processing, hasn't got to a reaction yet, maybe.
Um, what else? Could it be disappointment?
Ma'am, worried.
Could it be sense of the unbelievable that she's gone and cut her hair? Why?
Because he bought combs for her as a gift
Yeah,
and she
yeah,
no longer
okay.
has her hair only. Like, how is she
Yeah.
gonna use it?
The gift. Is
What gift has he bought for her?
he had got
Tortoise
combs.
combs.
Combs. Hair
A
combs.
pair of combs.
Yeah,
Made
what
of,
kind of combs and why
it
so
was
expensive?
made of shell of tortoise.
Yeah. Did anybody Google that? Why are the tortoise shell combs so valuable? Can you get them now? I googled it out of interest, and they have been banned. I think from 2007, the Wildlife Act bans anybody from dealing with tortoise shell. But it's interesting. Just Google, and it's interesting to see why it was considered as something special. How people used to do engravings in that. How it was a very valuable possession. Uh, so you have those beautiful set of combs, and how does the story end? What is Jim's reaction? How does the story end? Just go through that last two paragraphs, and I would like you to tell me. I think I've done enough of talking.
It ends with uneventful.
They say ending dramatic.
Yes, ma'am. It is because when he says they are too nice to use just at present, he is a little, he's shook, you could say.
Okay.
Even she is quite shook.
Mhm.
So they say, not now, probably later, but just not now.
Okay. Huda, maybe you could just call out to one or two of the girls. I think that maybe they're very shy to speak in my presence, but I'd really like.
Ma'am, some of them have texted me saying that they are having some technical network issues
Okay.
actually.
Okay.
But ma'am, they're not all shy. So I invite any of the FIs to please
Yeah.
represent your group and speak.
Girls, I'm going to start meeting you in class also shortly. I've already spoken with Huda, ma'am.
Ma'am, we can't see you.
Uh,
Yes,
can
I,
can
I
I
would love to hear you.
can the junior college teacher call upon
Sure, sure.
Muba? Muba, you have joined, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Miss Mubashira Inamdar. Congratulations, you are now part of the BMN first year
Yes, ma'am. Thank
BSc.
you.
Please open your mouth for Kalpana ma'am, and Mala ma'am is
Ma'am,
your
actually,
friend.
what is happening here is the voice is breaking, so I couldn't hear anything properly. Even the screen is coming in here.
Yeah, it is happening to me also. I
Yeah.
cannot see Mala ma'am at all.
Yeah.
But
So,
at
whatever
least,
ma'am is asking, so sometimes I'm not able to get it.
okay.
Yeah. So,
So,
Mubashira, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
When you came to the ending of the story, what did you feel at the end? Did you feel that Jim should have been gushing and appreciating his wife's sacrifice more? Or do you feel he was too cool about it?
Ma'am, he should have appreciated her because she had sacrificed her hair for that. But he just let it go and he told her to keep it in front of those decoratings she had made.
Okay. Um, let's look at the very last lines. And Mubashira, then you can nominate someone else to give an answer. Let's read the last line of the story together. The Magi, as you know, were wise men, wonderfully wise men, who brought gifts to the babe in the manger, referring to Jesus. They invented the art of giving Christmas presents. Being wise, their gifts were no doubt wise ones, possibly bearing the privilege of exchange in place of duplication. This is like a tongue in a cheek comment that many times you get gifts, but you already have that, so then you exchange it or you return it and you ask. So the giver has given you the gift in all sincerity, but somehow you feel that you already have the gift, so you try to exchange it for something else. And here I have lamely related to you the uneventful chronicle of two foolish children in a flat who most unwisely sacrificed for each other the greatest treasures of their house. This is the third person who's telling us this. Um, you agree with the narrator? Uneventful chronicle of two foolish children. Uneventful means nothing great, okay, about the story. And these are two foolish children.
Yes, ma'am.
So you still feel, Harshita, they're quite foolish for sacrificing.
Yeah, ma'am. They could have bought coats for themselves.
Okay. Yeah, but then would it have been such a beautiful story if they had bought coats for each other?
Ma'am, at the last, they are not even satisfied with the gifts because they have lost the things which were bought. So, was it worth being so romantic?
Okay. What makes you say they're not satisfied?
Ma'am, at the end of the video, also, if we saw their faces, they were not so happy. They just kept their gifts aside and they were like,
But look at the last sentence. But in a last word to the wise of these days, let it be said that of all who give gifts, these two were the wisest. Of all who give and receive gifts, such as they are wisest. Everywhere they are wisest. They are the Magi.
they gave out of love. And
So the author is also contradicting himself.
yes.
Earlier line he says the foolish children, but then he goes on to say that they are the wisest.
Yes, ma'am. I think
They
he
did.
means that in the first, when he says that these are foolish, probably he means respective to the gifts that they gave each other. And in the second sentence, when he says that they were the wisest, sorry, in the first he says they are foolish. In the second, when they say that they are the wisest, I think it means in the terms of sacrifice,
Okay.
not the gifts.
Okay. So what we're going to do now, we're going to do a poll. And Gauri, you can count. I have 22 people here. Just put in the chat box wise or foolish. Let's start.
Okay.
I want to see 22 votes here. How many say wise and how many say foolish? So do,
Ma'am, 19 people have given
Five.
their say.
so do we have 22 now? Come on, girls, it's almost a tie. Yeah, they did not talk about what they want. So is that foolish or wise? Neha?
Yes, ma'am, that's foolish.
That's foolish. Okay, put foolish then. Because sometimes when you don't talk about what you want, you can be wise also. So Gauri, what's the count?
Ma'am, I think we should discuss this element of surprise that is
Okay.
related to gifts.
Ma'am, 20.
Like one of the student has commented that Neha has Neha has said that because they did not talk about what they want. So this is giving surprises. So not everybody is okay with surprises. So for instance, somebody would want there are individuals who would like to be asked what they want as present.
Okay.
So I think that was the problem there. Like that becomes like a misunderstanding then, right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
ma'am, the tragedy was that even when it was a surprise for each other, even if those two gifts are surprise for each other, it did not come as a happy surprise. I don't
Okay.
know. I'm not sure. It did not come as a happy surprise for each other.
So it was a beautiful gesture.
Yes, could say that.
Would you say it went in vain? That's
Very
why.
well,
No,
very well put.
no, it did not go
That's
in vain.
why. That's why I put foolish, because sometimes you have beautiful gestures, but those gestures go in vain.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, ma'am. I think at the end they were both sad because they were thinking about the other person's loss, not so much
Yeah.
about their own.
Um, we started off at Gauri said there is something almost tragic. If you are doing literature, the word that you would use is pathos. Pathos. Okay. There's an element.
Pathos.
Okay, there is something sad in this story, although it's a beautiful story. Okay. There is something that touches you or something that is extremely sad about it also. And maybe that's what makes it such an effective story. There is this mixture of something beautiful in it, of this young couple who sacrifice their most important, precious possession for each other. But at the same time, there's something sad that ultimately that sacrifice, uh, like I said, was perhaps in vain because neither of them were really happy, okay, uh, at the gift that each other got. But of course, as Gauri has pointed out, Della will get her hair back. Uh, will Jim get his watch back?
No, I
Ma'am,
think
I
because
think he
Ma'am,
can
there
also,
was insufficient.
like, not soon, but he can get it with
Okay.
after saving some money.
Because Della says that after 3 years you will not remain a clerk in a law firm.
Okay.
You yourself will become. So that hope or that
Yeah.
you are going to go further in life. So I'm sure her hair will come back faster, but his watch also will.
Yeah. Okay. Did any of you relate the name Della to another biblical allusion? Are there any girls here who are Christian? Girls, anybody here who's a Christian? Okay. From the Bible, have you heard the story of Samson and Delilah?
No, ma'am.
Okay, just look that up because interesting story, Samson and Delilah. And again, you have Samson's strength was in his hair. It's very interesting. Again, I said allusions because it makes you think of other stories you've read. And Samson's strength was in his hair, and then he was fooled into cutting his hair off. Okay? So you can look up that up also, Samson and Delilah.
Ma'am, when you said that his strength is in his hair, I remembered there was this story which we had put in the collection called The Room.
Yes.
So in that, the boy who was living in that small
Yeah.
room for
Hmm.
5 years, he was told to his like his mother told him, "Your hair is your strong."
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
I think that was one story which he was, narrated to probably.
And there's another beautiful O. Henry story about the leaf also. I think is it the room where the painter paints the leaf?
Yeah, the last
Okay,
leaf.
the last leaf. Okay, so please do look up. It's exactly 1 hour now.
Um, if I can add one
Yeah.
sentence here, the last leaf, if you want to look up, you can look up. There is on Doordarshan, Katha Sagar used to come in 1986, and they have a lot of O. Henry stories
Hmm.
in Hindi. And Last Leaf was the first story
Yes,
that
yes.
they
I
had.
remember.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember that. And in fact, this gift of Magi also has been adapted in different ways later on. Okay.
Lot of movies, and I think Katha Sagar also.
Yeah.
My husband was the assistant director at that time with Kundan Shah, and they have worked a lot on
Okay.
O. Henry stories. So
So maybe we can personally also come and talk about O. Henry to us.
I will tell him that. I mean,
Yeah,
that the
yeah,
principal
yeah.
ma'am has told. So
It's interesting. O. Henry is not his actual name. Also,
yeah,
well, that up. See, all
next.
the time, what I keep doing is I keep googling things up as I read. Okay, and then you'll be surprised as to how much you're adding to your information about the writer, about the story. So it's 6:30. I just wanted to kind of course, everybody else can add in, but I just want you to just think about this, that in a story like this, uh, people can respond differently. Okay? That's what makes the story also a special story. Okay? There's no one fixed response, there's no one fixed way of looking at it. There's so many different ways that you can look at the idea of sacrifice, of love, of wisdom. Okay? It is the three wise men who bring the gift. So, how wise has this couple been? Okay? How their gesture been? But in the end, the author ends by saying that those who give gifts, these two are the wisest. And maybe they're the wisest because they give the ultimate gift that is possible, and that's not a material gift. Okay? It's a gift of, it's a statement of how much actually you care and love for each other, for which you don't really require to have very sort of material gifts. And you see the ending, I'll just end with this. Right at the end, see Jim's gesture, okay? Um, where he says, okay, I'll just move that up. Okay, he says, okay, uh, instead of obeying, Jim tumbled down on the couch, put his hands under the back of his head and smiled. Okay? And he says, let's put our Christmas presents away and keep them a while. They're just too nice to use as present at present. Okay? And I sold the watch to get the money to buy your combs, and now suppose you put the chops on. Okay. This is the last thing that we see of the couple. After that, we come back to the third person narrator. So, what's the last gesture between the couple? Okay. Yeah. 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 It's what the husband's saying, it's okay. Okay, now put it away. Okay. You see how practical he is. Well, as the wife howls at the beginning. Okay, she sniffles and she snobs. Okay. He sits back, he puts his hands behind his neck, and he says, put the gifts away and go and start dinner. And that tells you something. I can see Kalpana ma'am smiling away.
It's normal life.
Yeah.
It's regular life.
Normal. Yeah. But doesn't that make you feel that why did the wife have to sacrifice her hair?
And why did he also have to give his watch away? They
Yeah.
both are happy as they
Yeah.
were.
Yeah. Yeah. So therefore I said foolish. Of course it is beautiful.
Ma'am, I read an article about this story, which they mentioned that O. Henry used to write for a newspaper. I think you must have also come across
Yeah.
this. He used to write for a newspaper, and he wrote the story for that particular
Okay.
newspaper as a Christmas edition. So basically, probably commercially, the newspaper wanted him to write a story that would make
Okay.
people buy more gifts,
Mm-hmm.
or in order to
Yeah.
kind of encourage gift giving. But
Okay.
I think in through this story, he has kind of made us view gift giving practically,
Okay.
and how there are so many aspects to gift giving, and such a
Okay.
complicated business,
Uh-huh.
right?
In
So then
fact, yeah.
what do we pay attention to? Should we pay attention to the intentions and then be
Yeah.
happy about it and move on, or shall we keep focusing on the object?
Yeah. I think that's what comes with the whole material object, the intention behind it. Does the material giving actually satisfy the objective behind it? Ultimately, what does the couple achieve at the end? The practicality of the husband, that it's okay. 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 And then Della's reaction is not given after that. Okay. So it ends with the husband's reaction. And so it's a really a nice story, I think, if you keep going back to it. And that's why it stood the test of time. Because whoever reads it, whichever period of time you read, I'm sure will be able to relate to it at some level or the other. Simina said there was a lesson in school on the last leaf, and Misma, there's a movie. I'm not. I'm not.
I also don't know.
Okay.
So Luteria was loosely adapted
Yeah.
from the
Okay.
last in the last.
Okay. Last leaf. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, but you'll have. I'm sure that these stories have inspired a lot of other people. So I kind of think that I'll end here. Does anybody else want to say anything? Any other
Ma'am, I
stories?
just wanted to say like the author says they are the wisest of all because instead of discussing why they did this and what's the point of sacrificing so much, they practically understood each other and they they tried to move ahead. Like they didn't think so much about what they did. So
Okay.
they are wise. They are wise in some way for their age.
Rina, would you say the husband is wise or both of them are wise?
Husband advice.
Ma'am,
But
I can definitely imagine Della sulking for days.
yeah, howling and sniffling.
He must be howling.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Any other Christmassy stories before we round up? Any recommendations for reading the next couple of days?
Ma'am, Debbie McCamber's Falling for Christmas and many other books are really nice.
Okay. Okay. What about
Ma'am,
Old
will you
Christmas?
bring Who Moved My Cheese in the next session?
Sure. So, Mispa, would you like to discuss it?
I haven't read it. I just had read it.
No, please read it. I would love for someone else to lead the discussion.
Corey, this is a great idea. We should actually
Yeah.
make this a theme where
Yeah.
a student could,
Yeah.
lead a discussion just like Mala ma'am did.
Yeah, I would love to hear the girls because there are so many who have logged in today. I really love to hear what girls have to say. So, Mispa, will you lead the discussion next time? We can help you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And as a last thought, please look up the Grinch Who Stole Christmas. It is a children's book. It has lovely pictures to it, and it's a classic Christmas tale also. I will put it onto the group so you can look it up. Okay. So, Happy New Year, everybody. And now we meet in 2021.
To you too, ma'am. Happy New Year.
Same to you, ma'am.
Happy New
Happy
Year,
New
ma'am.
Year, everybody.
Yeah, Happy New
Happy
Year
New Year,
and thank
Kalpana
Happy New
ma'am.
Year.
Happy New
Same
Year,
to
girls.
you, everyone.
Thank you
you.
for wrapping off 2020 on a very good note.
Yes, and let's all be wise and wise and wiser and wisest.
Balance between foolish and wise.
Let's keep our hair and no tortoise shell combs. They are prohibited. It's interesting because it shows how times change. How
Yeah.
these prized possessions today are illegal, and nobody would dare making combs out of tortoise shell. But look it up, Google it. You can see some very beautiful artifacts that have been made. It's almost like ivory, I believe. Okay.
Yeah.
And I also saw in the on the net that there's a kind of warmth to it. When you hold it, it also feels quite warm. Okay? And it was easy to engrave on it. Otherwise, one might think, why does he have to spend so much money on tortoise shells? Check at home. Maybe your grandparents or someone might have something made out of tortoise shell.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Ivory,
Okay.
yes, but no tortoise shell.
Ivory, yes.
That time means our grandmother's bangles, what
Yeah.
they gave for
Yeah.
weddings.
Yeah.
For Gujaratis, we call it chudlo.
Yeah.
Chudlo was always on ivory. So my
Ivory. Okay.
grandmother's I have got,
Mm-hmm.
my
Yes,
nanny's,
ma'am.
my mother's mother.
Yeah.
So those are of ivory.
And ivory was is supposed to be very hard, so it was easy to engrave on it and make all these
Yeah.
beautiful artifacts out of it. Okay, so
Ma'am, I just want to add.
yes,
Uh,
you have
Ma'am, this
tortoise
is
shells.
no, ma'am, not at all. Neither the ivory.
Vinaya, you
Yeah.
I
must
just
be
wanted
having
to
a
add.
tortoise.
Not the tortoise, also Kalpana, ma'am.
I
But
know.
this was a story. Actually, I joined especially today because this was a story which my grandmother told me when I
Okay.
was 8 years old.
Wow.
Okay. And that is why it is really very special to me. And I mean, today I learned a lot, many uh, facets to this story. But in effect, she had told me as a wonderful love story between
But,
a couple who
yeah.
one I mean, cuts her hair and the other gives away the watch. And
But
I
Vinaya,
still remember, yes, ma'am.
Vinaya, as an 8-year-old, what was your reaction?
Ma'am, I had thought of it as a completely as a love story, and
Okay.
I still remember the time. It was like this only December. I do not know why she told me. I mean, it was a Christmas break. It was after dinner, and I still remember sitting next to her and hearing it. And
Okay.
so this thing, and it was completely. I mean, we didn't really go over it in terms of
Yeah.
was the decision right or wrong, but it was just a story to say that this is how people
Okay.
do things in order to
Yeah.
bring each other joy.
Yes, and ultimate symbols of love for a couple for each other.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But Jim, I don't know, Jim's reaction at the end was maybe,
Absolutely, what we would expect it to be.
yeah.
Means 1905 this story was written. So
Hmm.
1905 or 2020, there is no change.
Exactly, exactly. That's what makes this story a memo, meaning it's something that stood over time. That
That is why I said it stands the test of time.
and also I couldn't help thinking to myself, if this couple was not 22 but 42,
Then I
They
don't
would have
think
bought the
they would
overcoat.
have given. Huh?
No, ma'am, they would have bought the overcoat.
They would have not got anything. They would
they
have
would have done what
stayed.
Misbah has said. Misbah said they should have been more prudent. Okay.
Ma'am, I also feel that somewhere down the line there is a difference in age
Hmm.
between the readers also over here in this group. Okay,
Hmm.
we are thinking more. We are ready to think of the romantic aspect of it. But I was hearing Harshita speak, and I also had my son sitting next to me who likes to read, and his impression was also what a foolish idea. Why sell the watch now? What if things become more difficult? He could sell it later. So I think that difference also is there in terms of age, where
Yeah. Yeah.
though on one hand there was a romantic idea to this, on the other hand there is that practical thing that if things go more worse, what would they then do?
You know, Neha has put an interesting remark. She has put that she might have hair fall at that age. So, might as well give her hair off. Okay, then. Bye, everybody. Enjoy
Bye,
your
ma'am.
new year.
Bye.
Thank you,
And
ma'am. Thank you,
Thank
ma'am,
you, ma'am.
for
Thank you so
having
much.
this session with us
yeah,
on
and
behalf of the book club.
yeah, and
Ma'am, I want to inform something to Mala ma'am
yes,
and
ma'am.
Hina ma'am. Can
Yes,
I
ma'am.
please?
Yes, sure.
Ma'am, last November 27th November, my cousin brother, had an accident.
Okay.
So I was not able to attend my lectures.
Okay.
Uh, so I have informed my class teacher and I was late to inform her and I'm extremely sorry for that. So
That's okay, Neha.
yeah, this is what I was to inform.
Yeah. How is he now?
Now he is not that conscious.
Okay. He's still in hospital.
No, he has got discharged last week.
Okay.
On 7th December, he has got discharged on
Okay.
7th December. Now he is okay, but he's not that conscious.
Yeah, so please convey our best wishes for speedy recovery.
Sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
And Neha, just send an email to your class teacher.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I talked to
Okay.
Vishali
Sure.
ma'am, so she told me to send the scan
Yeah.
copy of his
Yeah.
documents
Yeah.
and all
Yeah.
record. So I will
All right.
sure I will definitely do that,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
ma'am. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Okay, everybody. See you in 2021.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you,
Bye,
ma'am,
ma'am.
on behalf of the
Thank you,
club
ma'am.
for the wise thoughts.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
It's always a very nice evening spent with the book club.
Yeah, Vinya, you can bring suggestions also of what you would like to read.
Sure, ma'am, sure.
Ma'am,
Lead a
you
discussion.
remember this one time you had told us about this kind of novel, category of novel that you personally enjoy. We could do something like that also, in
Sure,
the same
sure,
category,
Huda.
but a short story probably.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah, so that
Definitely.
we have more people leading the discussion also. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye everyone.